Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the Sabbath Stones. Alongside in the co-captain's chair, as always, Mr. Chris Alo. We're here talking Sabbath once again. What's happening, my friend?
What's going on, Pete? How you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Just you know, summer's almost over, winding down. Gonna close the pool this weekend, I think, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, we have I think we've been in it in August. I think I went in it twice.
Yeah, we didn't go in a lot in ours in August either, and
No.
we always keep it open late though, just in case that hot spell, which sometimes we get. But
Yeah, I don't feel like spending any more on electricity to keep the pump
yeah,
every day.
yeah,
Just looking at it. My wife is like, she goes to me, she goes, "Well, keep it open as long as you can because I hate looking at the pool with the cover on it. I like seeing the water." And I'm like, the icicles will be coming around the pool, and it's like, it's got to close. I can't keep running the filter.
no, for sure,
You know. But I
absolutely.
feel bad. I feel bad not using it, right? It's like if I'm not going to use it, let me close it up. So
Yeah, that's true.
whatever. So anyway, before we get started on our topic for this episode, which is basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Sabbath's first six albums, and we're going to discuss whether we think that it might be the greatest six album six album run from the start of a career for any kind of heavy band or any rock band in general. And then we'll maybe talk about some other bands that have a similar run. But I think, Sabbath's got a pretty substantial six albums here to start their career that I think are pretty hard to beat. But before we do that, Chris has got some things in the Sabbath news, releases and things like that. So
Sure. Yeah.
take it
Yeah.
away.
Just I jotted just a couple things down that came up since the last episode. First off, this was a bit of a shocker, and I don't know when this started, but it was up earlier today. Of course, we did talk about Anno Domini, the Tony Martin box set, the 4 disc box set. Amazon US has an unbelievable sale on it. The CD is normally $59.98, and that's on sale today for $35.
That's a good
And
price.
the vinyl box set is $99.98, and that was on sale today for $69.44. So if anybody in the US, I don't know how it works in Canada, if you can order from Amazon US, but anybody that was on the fence, I mean, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
35 bucks for 4 CDs and 2 books. That's a really good price for that.
Yeah, I would say jump on that. I mean, I know it was a few months ago already, but yeah, because I know there were some people that were kind of like, well, I already have the original discs, and well, now you can get remastered versions and all the extras, and
Yeah,
$35 is a pretty good deal. That's
yeah,
better because I think I bought it for 46 when it first came out, and I thought that was pretty good. So
right.
35, yeah, and yeah, I wonder how long that's going to be going on for.
It's Amazon. I shop on Amazon way too much.
Yeah,
The prices literally can change
every day.
at a moment's notice.
Yeah,
So, hopefully by the time this airs, that price will still be up. And, if you were on the fence or you need it for a gift or something, I would definitely grab it while you can because that's an awesome price.
cool. Yep, it
Uh,
is.
Um, the other thing that came up, this came up the just the other day, and it was a pre-order, and it took me about 30 seconds to pre-order it. And it's interesting because I thought this was a release that would be coming out. Usually a pre-order means you order it and you pre-order it and it comes out in a couple months. But I clicked the pre-order button, and according to Rhino Records, it's already shipped and it's on the way to me. And this is the Live Evil Blu-ray. Now, before anybody gets super excited,
No video.
this is right. This is not the home video version. This is a Blu-ray audio version. So this has a two mixes that are distinct to this release. There was not a lot of info on it, so I'm assuming that they are based off of the new 2023 remixed version of Live Evil. I'm not sure why they would go with the previous version, but it's got obviously you need a Blu-ray player to play it, and a home surround sound system because it has a Dolby Atmos True HD 7.1 mix, and a high-res DTS stereo 5.1 mix. The rumors that I heard was that Win Davis, who was Dio's sound man for years, who remixed the 2023 Live Evil, supposedly he had no info. He was completely unaware of this. And again, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that Tony Iommi was caught off guard and was unaware of this. So who did this? Who put this together? Who authorized this? I don't know, but it is an official release through Rhino Records, and I should have it in a couple days.
I know most people are going to say, well, why didn't they include that in with the Live Evil box set that came out, right? With the remix and all that.
But
Yeah,
that was already 4 discs. You know, you had the 2 original mixes and the 2 discs that were the new mix. The thing that shocks me, I'm like, if I'm not mistaken, like of the entire Black Sabbath catalog, isn't this and put it in the comments if I'm wrong. I'd love to know, but isn't this the first ever Blu-ray audio disc of any Black Sabbath record?
Blu-ray, right? You might be right.
I mean, I know I've purchased the quad disc of Paranoid.
Right.
But other than that, right, this is the only other, and that started out as a Rhino exclusive.
Yeah, I don't think any of the others have Blu-rays in them, to my knowledge.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting.
Maybe it's a trend that we'll see going forward.
Right. Yeah, it could be.
They're a little late to the game, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
Because a lot of the other bands have been doing that already. So.
And I'll be honest, I did think for a split second, Pete, I'm like, do I need this? And then I'm like,
that's the thing, right? Do you need it?
I'm like, okay, yeah, to go with the other 8 copies I have of Live Evil, but I'm like, all right, technically these are 2 different mixes. I do have a pretty nice surround sound system at home. I'm like, all right, screw it, you got me. And it was cheap. You know, it was only, I think it was $24.95. So I think it was cheaper than the Paranoid quad mix. I thought that was more money for some reason. So I thought that was interesting. Now, also on the Rhino website, I saw this, and this apparently, I think it's a Rhino exclusive. I hadn't heard of this before, but they reissued, and I don't know if they're going to do all the albums, but they reissued the first Sabbath record as a quote unquote Rhino high fidelity LP. So it's some kind of new mastering process they did, and it's a Rhino Records exclusive. There was a limited version. I think it was 5,000 maybe. And of course, there was a numbered and a non-numbered version. The numbered version's already sold out. The unnumbered version is still available on the Rhino website. The thing that I found interesting was, okay, if you're going all out on this new process, like why wouldn't you make it a double record? Because right, I remember years ago that was the big thing that they were, and they still do it with certain albums. You know, to cut the grooves wider to give better audio. I mean, I'm not an audiophile, but that was always my understanding. So this is although the entire record, but only on one vinyl album. So I thought that was interesting.
Also, too, I forgot because I heard about it like yesterday. The Tony Iommi, Glenn Hughes 1996 Depth Sessions and the Fused albums are going to both be released on vinyl for the first time.
That was my on my list. Yep, Fused and the Depth Sessions. Yep, coming out October 4th. And right, the big news is for vinyl collectors. Both will be on vinyl for the first time ever. They are not remixed or remastered, right. So the audio is unchanged. The thing that is cool though, Fused will have 3 additional bonus tracks. The Depth Sessions, unfortunately, does not.
Right.
So that's kind of a bummer. What else? Tony Iommi did release a new cologne called Deified, and he released a new song and music video of the same name. And he recently mentioned on the Full Metal Jackie syndicated radio show that he is working on a new solo record. So my assumption would be, I think this is the second or third track that he's done a video for. I'm assuming these tracks are all going to be on this solo record, then, which I'm assuming would be an instrumental solo record whenever.
Well, I mean, there was an interview with Glenn not long ago, and he hinted that he and
Yes,
Tony were planning on doing something.
correct.
Now, he's kind of been busy with Black Country Communion. They're talking about doing some dates, but he's also talked about doing a solo record, and he's talked about doing something with Tony. So I don't know what's going on. Will
Yeah,
Tony maybe guest on Glenn's album? Or I don't know.
yeah. Who knows?
Uh,
There is a new book. Rufus Publications in the UK just issued a pre-order for a 340-page photo book from photographer Ross Halfin called Iomi the Photographs. That seems pretty interesting. If you want to look at pictures of Tony Iommi like myself, you can get a whole book of nothing but that. That's available in signed and unsigned editions. And this last one is a I guess take it with a grain of salt. But there had been a lot of talk about the proposed Sabbath reunion, and I do have a source that goes straight back to one of the original Sabbath guys. One of my best friends has a close friend who works for one of the four original Sabbath members, and I was told recently, about a week ago, that yeah, this reunion of the four original members is on. Take that for what it's worth. I did ask, of course, follow-ups like, okay, when and how many songs, and I couldn't get any other info other than don't know. We'll let you know when I know something. But yeah, apparently all four guys privately have agreed that they're going to do something.
well, and Martin Popoff and I talked about this last week on our Friday show, and I think it's like if you're gonna do something, you better do it now.
Yeah.
Because with the health of Ozzy and certainly Bill, and they're not getting any younger. And while they still can at least play, and my guess, I don't think we're going to get a full show.
I thought the
It's,
same thing.
it's probably four or five great. I mean, we know what they are, right? They're going to come out. They're going
Yeah.
to play Paranoid, Iron Man, War Pigs, and Children of the Grave. There
Yep.
you go.
That's it.
And is what it is. I mean, for one last time, does it need to be done? Probably. Will it be, where will it be? I don't know. Will it be a headline little short set at a festival? Will it be just something in Birmingham? And will it,
Yeah.
Martin and I were talking about they could do like a pay-per-view, they could do like some kind of studio thing and they record it and release. Who knows at
Well,
this
that was I did watch the episode with Martin, and I did laugh out loud. Not to disagree with the great Martin Popoff, but he's like, yeah, they could film it and get like a limited audience, but let the audience know that the band is going to play for like 6 hours and do like multiple takes of Paranoid, and I'm like, I'm watching and going, are you fucking out of your mind? There is no way. There is like, you'd be lucky to get 20 minutes out of these guys. You think they're going to have them do 10 fucking takes of Paranoid or five
it could
takes
basically be
of
like
Iron
Live Aid
Man?
all over again, right? It'd
Yeah,
be like Live Aid, right? Yeah.
that's it. That's what you're going to get. Live Aid at 20 minutes. I would think if Ozzy could do a full set, it would be Ozzy Osbourne and friends, and he would do a full set of solo material, and the encore would be right, four songs with the original Sabbath guys. But from what we've seen from Ozzy, he physically does not look like he could play a full set. So I think you're the opposite then, Pete. You're right. I think either they'll throw them on at a festival or something. Hell, they can even throw them in a club. But yeah, they're not. I don't think they're going to do a 5 hour taping with the four original members of Sabbath. That's definitely not happening.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, they either way they better do it quick. I mean, I just heard Ian McKellen signed on to do, or is about to sign on to do, a new appearance as Gandalf in a new Lord of the Rings movie.
And
And
he
they
even
asked him.
said, dude,
He
let's
said,
do it.
"You better hurry up with that script. I'm 85 years old." So
He's just being truthful, right?
that's it. Listen, none of us. I say it all the time. None of us are getting out of here alive.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. So we'll see. I guess the time will tell. I would assume that if they're going to pull the plug, go with this, we're going to hear something pretty soon.
I would think. I mean, I would think. I mean, unless they're waiting for Ozzy to physically be a little better, because I mean, hell, listen, so when we saw Ozzy and Tony play the right, was it the British Olympics or whatever that was, the British Games? I mean, Ozzy was practically propped up and he was lip syncing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. All right, now to the task at hand. So, it's long been said that Sabbath's 70s albums are classics, at least most of them are, right? Uh, this came up in various conversations recently. We started, talking about and looking at, this bad boy right here, this bad boy right here, this one, this one, this one, and this one. All right. No disrespect to Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die, right? But most people, this is the cream of the crop from the 70s Sabbath albums. Does anybody else have a 6 album run that's like this? Because no matter who you talk to, Chris, most diehard Sabbath fans will generally pick one of these as their favorite Sabbath albums. And all 6 of them will be somewhere in the top of their ranking list. So, who else in heavy music, certainly, right? We can talk about in all of rock, but in heavy music, certainly, I guess you could make the case for Led Zeppelin, right?
Yeah, I mean, you probably could.
I mean, I think the problem with Zeppelin comes, all right, so the first 3 albums, of course, Zeppelin 4, of course, House of the Holy, I think belongs up there. Physical Graffiti, is Presence as classic as the other ones? Maybe not. Maybe the drop off is there. I think certainly Iron Maiden in the 80s.
That was the for me when we're doing something like this, I immediately think of the Holy Trinity. So yeah, I thought Maiden and Priest. But yeah, in looking at the 6 from Maiden, yeah, to me, somewhere in time, even though I really like some of the material on there, it's just not as strong as the previous 5. To me, that's the drop off. There's
But I think a lot of people do look at Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son as that's from the first album to Seventh
Yes,
Son.
the
That's
first 7, yeah,
the
because then
first
there
seven.
was a
But
true
you're right.
drop off.
Is Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son as strong as they are they drop dead classics like all the ones that came before it?
Right.
I'd argue maybe not.
Yeah,
But would you argue that any of these are not drop dead classics?
absolutely, yeah, no doubt. And then I did think of Priest, not the first 6, but I was thinking of a 6 album run, and I was like, that's pretty close. So to me, the 6 that I was looking at for Priest: Stained Class, Hellbent for Leather, British Steel, Point of Entry, Screaming for Vengeance, and Defenders of the Faith. And I'm like, that's
Now you wouldn't go back to Sad Wings and Sin After Sin? I would totally put that.
that's yeah, but then we're losing Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith.
Well,
If
but
we
to me,
go,
point of entry is the weak spot in all those albums.
yes, no, that is true. But to me, Screaming and Defenders are so strong. Just for me personally, when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, all right. So then, I mean, because then if you go back to the beginning, okay, we're including Rockarola, and nobody likes Rockarola, including Judas Priest. So, but yeah, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. But yes, if the my proposed block of 6, absolutely, the weak point would be Point of Entry, because there is a couple stinkers on there, but there's a couple great tracks as well. Which I guess if we're going block against block, of the original Sabbath block, I think of the first 6, I think Sabotage might be the one. There's some great material, but there's a couple like Am I Going? We've talked about it to death, but Am I Going Insane is such a you
Well,
know
yeah. I mean, I think there are a couple of clunkers here and there on these albums. I don't think any of these albums. Well, maybe yeah, on Sabotage, right? I mean, but the problem is, well, it's not. It's a good problem. Is that there are such monstrous songs on all of these
oh
albums
yeah,
that we can overlook. And Am I Going Insane?
exactly.
Right? Because when you got an album that's got Hole in the Sky and Symptom of the Universe and Megalomania on it, and the Writ,
Right.
you know, you can kind of overlook that. I mean, same thing with,
I was
Volume
just gonna
4.
say, just like me and you were Volume Four. I mean, Volume Four is an amazing record, but holy Christ, can we get changes? Let's just delete changes,
Yeah,
and then
changes can go off, and FX we don't need that, but everything else
right is amazing.
is absolutely amazing. And but then you have albums like honestly, Who Are You? I'm not a huge fan of on here, but the rest of
Agreed.
it just
Oh
is
yeah,
incredible. Master of Reality. I don't even mind Embryo, right? It's
no,
a cool little piece, but everything else on here,
Solitude is not my favorite song, but it's kind of weepy and depressing. It's different.
yeah. But look at everything else that's around it. Sweet Life
Yes,
After Forever,
100%.
Children of the Grave, Into the Void, Lord of this World.
Yeah,
I mean, for crying out loud, right? Um,
and yeah, I wouldn't change a thing off the first two Sabbath
well,
records.
you really can't, right? You
Yeah,
really,
I mean that to me,
and,
everything is spot on.
I love, like, for me, like how all these albums are really different from each other. Like this, dropping Paranoid on the floor. Um, by the way, folks watching, always be careful when you drop these, like, kind of like digibook, these digipack
That's the worst thing
releases.
about them. Yeah.
Because yeah, I was last week. I was up on my shelf on my ladder, and I was grabbing some of the Rush ones that are up there, and the Rush remasters, and with all they're just like this. Well, one of them fell. As it was going down, it hit my ladder and fucking ripped the whole thing right down.
No kidding.
I was like, Jesus! It just hit it
Oh,
right at the right angle, and I'm like, oh man, no
that
good.
sucks.
That's why this whole system's got I have to redo because I can't be having stuff facing out.
Falling,
Sometimes you go
falling.
grab one falls down, and as it falls down, it takes everything
Oh,
with it. So it's just like, oh my God. So no good, no good. Anyway, back to the yeah, I mean, what's great about this six album run is, like, I don't think they repeated themselves at all here. Like, this is very raw, jammy, heavy,
kind of jazzy in parts.
kind of
Yeah.
jazzy and bluesy in parts, right? Very different, but still the essence of Sabbath is there. I mean, this is like where it came all together,
Yep.
right? This classics on here, and for most of us, this was our introduction to the band. Hard hitting, doomy vibe, but it's almost like kind of psychedelic in spots. And then you got, the first real Doom album, or the first Stoner album here. And this to me is their heaviest album. It's just, and the production, even though Roger Bain did the production on all three of these, they all seem
Yes.
a little
They all
different.
sound a little different. Yep.
Yeah, but
Agreed.
but still, and then this is where the experimentation comes in. Tony produces this on his own, and it definitely sounds different. And people say all the time, well, this is where they started adding prog into their sound. I don't know if there's any prog here, but
Right.
I think Tony found out that he can manipulate the studio and do some different things. And there's definitely some different things on here. But I think some of the doomy vibe of Master Real, I think, kind of
Carries
carries
over for
over on here
sure.
a little bit.
100%.
Under the Sun, and Supernaut, and I mean, Snowblind is incredible. But yeah, Changes, whether you love it or hate it, that's something really different for them, right?
100%. And speaking of Prague, yes, that there you go. I mean, that's one where a lot of people point to that one that,
Yeah.
oh, they started to get proggy on Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
I think this album sounds, out of all these, the most different.
Yeah.
There's something about the production of this album and the arrangements. It's still heavy as fuck, right? And it's still, it still has that Sabbath vibe, but there's something, I don't know, what is it, a little more sophisticated maybe on this?
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. I've never been able to pinpoint it. I think, maybe like the riffs and the guitar tones aren't as bludgeoning as on the two albums or the three albums that came before it. And it just, to me, this just sounds like Sabbath growing up a little bit. Maybe it's all the coke that they were doing, or
I mean, if I remember right, the lore for that time was, they were kind of burnt out and they had nothing, and they were almost kind of thinking about, geez, do we break up? And then Tony came up with the riff for Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and then things just went from there. And if I remember right, they were like recorded it in like a haunted castle, and they had lots of weird and spooky occult sort of things going on and that all.
That's the vibe of this album, right?
Yeah.
And I think the artwork perfectly kind of gives you an insight into what's going on with the music here, because I don't think anywhere in their catalog there's stuff like National Acrobat or
Oh yeah.
Dabber or Spiral Architect. I mean, it's just, and then you got, Who Are You's kind of weird. Looking for Today is very kind of uplifting and like happy for them for this time
Yes.
period. And, Killing Yourself to Live and the title track art, that's kind of what you'd expect from Sabbath, right? But I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on in this album that like is real. You know what I kind of look at? I hate to always compare like the classic Sabbath stuff to the classic Zeppelin stuff, but I think to me this album and Houses of the Holy have a lot in common. Because Houses of the
Okay.
Holy also they experimented and did a lot of different things. There's a lot of different variety on that album. I think that's kind of what you're getting here as well, to me
Yeah,
anyway.
I can see that comparison for sure.
And to me, this was the last great Sabbath record from this period. Again, we talked about the classics on here, but I don't. I like Technical Ecstasy. I don't feel it's on the level of these though. Personally,
Agreed. Yes. To me,
good, right? It's good.
it's good, but it's, to me, yes, I would agree. After Sabotage, things kind of took a notch down. It just was not the same. And yeah, of course, you and I both hate Never Say Die. It's a terrible, terrible record.
Yeah, which the band hates as well.
Right. And listen, they
Some
were
people today still feel it's an absolute Sabbath classic. Steve,
agreed.
we love you, but it's like
Yeah, there are people that, say it's the best record. So, hey, listen, everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
yeah.
I think an interesting thing when I was looking at the Sabbath catalog as a whole, I was like, okay, I came up with a block of six that I don't know if I like as much as the initial six that we're talking about, but it's possible. It's close for me. It's very close. So the six that I'm talking about, Pete,
Heaven and
uh,
Hell.
Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, Born Again, Seventh Star, Eternal Idol, and Headless Cross. And I'm like, yeah, to me, those six. I don't want to say they're equals because I don't think they are, and certainly they're not equaled as far as influence. But man, those are, if I had to come up with another block of six Sabbath records that are favorites of mine,
And then you got
like that's it.
Dehumanizer sitting right on the end of that, right? Which could be number 7.
But there, Tears in the middle.
Oh, that's right. The
And I
tears there. That's right.
and I don't really like Tear that
But you
much.
don't.
But again,
I dig
I know
tears.
a lot of people love it,
Yeah.
but I thought it was a step for me personally. I thought it was a step down from Eternal Idol and Headless Cross.
And I know a lot of people would probably say that Seven Star is the weird one in there, right? Because some people like it a lot, like us, and some people are kind of like, whatever.
Right. Which, in '86, I hated it. I didn't like it at all. But then I went back to it, maybe a year or two later, and I was like, yeah, it really grew on me over the years. Now I
Really
love
good.
it.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's hard to yeah, because it's hard to say, because I know you and I are both big fans. It's like, when you got Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, and Born Again for sure, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, those are really, really strong. We have a big love for Seven Star, and we like the Tony Martin stuff a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of want to make that argument that it maybe comes close. To me, it doesn't come quite as close as these, but we want it to, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good thing
For
about a
sure.
band with a long history like this and a big catalog, right? Because you can kind of do these kind of configurations. Like you can't, to go back to Zeppelin, you can't do that because of course Into the Outdoor, they're done, right? Other than the Coda record. So basically you're like, all right, is every album a 10 out of 10, or did the big run kind of end at Physical Graffiti, and then Presence is pretty good, and then Into the Outdoor is okay, but something, I know a lot of people who love those two records. So a lot of people say every Zeppelin album is, a total belter,
Right.
and that whole run is classic, right? And it does better than what Sabbath does, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's always up for debate. I mean, I know whenever the question comes up of, well, if you're trapped on a desert island, you can only have one album, one band's catalog. Yeah, for me, it's always Sabbath because there's so many different players, so many different sounds. so many of these albums sound like a completely, of course, Mob Rules sounds like a completely different band from Never Say Die versus the band on Headless Cross, and there was a different band other than the one guy. So yeah, there's such a variation over the
And
years.
that's the issue we get with bands like this. I look at my other favorite band, Deep Purple, too. That's another one. So like, so I can go, okay, so we got really the beginning of Purple as a band that I love. I mean, the first three albums are fine for what they are, but it's In Rock, Fireball, Machine Head. Okay. Who do we think we are? I like that album. It's not one of their best albums, but I like it. So to me, that's the kind of like, all right, so we've got this great three album run. Then we got a pretty good album. Then we got Burn, which is amazing.
Right, it's my favorite Purple record.
Stormbringer is damn good.
Yep.
I personally love Come Taste the Band. I know some people are hit or miss with it. Maybe it's not Purple to some people. Again, like Sabbath, you got these changing lineups now. You got,
Right.
between those three records. And then there's the Inactivity, and then they come out with Perfect Strangers, which to a lot of people, that's one of their favorite Purple albums.
I mean, it
So
could be, and that could be argued the greatest comeback record of
of
all
all
time.
time, right? But then, the album after that is
Yeah.
okay. So kind of for Purple, that run kind of ends there, but then it's up for debate whether Come Taste the Band, Stormbringer, and Who Do We Think We Are belong in a list of classic albums all in a row, because you can
Yeah.
make the argument that a couple of those are good, but maybe not classic legendary albums, right? So, I mean, to
For
me, the
sure.
first six Sabbath is like a no-brainer. I
Oh
think
yeah.
Zeppelin is pretty much close to a no-brainer. At least from the 70s, from this time period. I'm trying to think of any other bands from the 70s that
But
have.
the other thing too, not to start a fight between Sabbath fans and Zeppelin fans, but somebody posted something the other day, and I saw it twice get posted about Sabbath versus Zeppelin, and I was like, you know what? Two great bands, two hugely influential bands, but none of these old blues guys like Muddy Waters, none of them had to sue the guys in Black Sabbath for plagiarism. Right or
That
wrong,
is
Pete?
true. That is
Right
true.
or wrong?
Yeah,
Calling a spade here.
yeah, that is true. Yeah. Um, but Zeppelin weren't the only bands doing that.
Right.
But no, I mean
But
Sabbath were pretty fucking original, right? You think about
that's
it.
it. Yeah. And if they covered something, they was a cover.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I was thinking of like other acts from the same time besides for Sabbath and Zeppelin who had, like you could make a case if you're going more on the pop side, like Elton John had a pretty crazy run of really great albums during this time period. Um, but I'm like, who
Well,
else
that's
would
well,
win?
that's a Pete. I would have no idea about that. I've never
No,
heard
well, trust
never
me.
heard it. No, I definitely do. But I'm like, I never heard an Elton John record in my life. I never
No,
heard a Fleetwood Mac record in my life. I mean, yeah, other than shit on the radio. But if Sydney's out there, I'm sure she's not watching. But yeah, I still haven't heard Rumors from start to finish. Sorry,
oh,
Sydney.
that's a great album. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could probably make the argument. I could that Rush is first. I mean,
Okay.
I think Caress of Steel is the one weird one in there because some people
Yes.
don't like it a lot. I love Caress of Steel. So you've got Rush, Fly By Night, Caress of Steel, 2112, Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres, Moving Picture, Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures. That's a run, right?
Yeah, that is
And
for
you want to throw
sure.
Signals in there too. It's a lot of albums.
Yeah.
But the one that's the kind of that sticks out is Caress of Steel for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I'm going bald, and was it the lament? Yeah, yeah, so that stuff. I'm like, yeah, that record never really worked for me too
No,
much.
I dig it. I've grown to love it over time. I can probably honestly admit that it's not a classic like all the other ones. I
Yeah,
do really like it a lot, but that's the one that spoils that run for me. You can maybe talk about the Scorpions, right?
true. Yes,
You can make the argument of the first Lonesome Crow if you don't want to go all the way that far back. Fly to the Rainbow. That's maybe not a
I mean, to
classic,
me,
but I
the
would
Uli
say
John Roth stuff is incredible.
it's incredible, right? So you could say Fly to the Rainbow, Virgin Killer, and Trance, Taken by Force, and then you could go to Love Drive, Animal Magnetism, Blackout, and maybe even
Yeah,
go further. Maybe you go one more album, Love at First Sting, maybe. That's a pretty good run too, right? But
yeah.
But again, you run into the issue of all these different lineups and
Yeah.
total change in sound and
Right. And yeah, Lonesome Crow sounds completely different.
oh
It's like
yeah,
a different band from Love at First Sting. I
it's like a
mean, there's,
German psych album. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah, crazy, crazy, psychedelic rock. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that I like about this run here is because I think each one of these albums, even though they may all differ a little bit, sounds like Black Sabbath. And it sounds like the evolution of Black Sabbath from album to album to album. And I think that is there's something to be said for that. And if you look at the amount of just legendary Black Sabbath songs that everybody knows, everybody loves, they're all right here.
yeah. No, nobody's clamoring for Johnny Blade or
No,
Swing of the Chain or
Junior's
whatever.
Eyes and
Yeah,
Rock and Roll Doctor, and
yeah.
again, I got nothing against that stuff.
She's gone. Nobody wants to fucking hear she's gone.
No,
So
no. I mean, Dirty Women, well, we could talk
yeah,
about.
all right, I'll give you that one. I do that. That is a good one.
Uh, well, so there you have it, everybody. We're just here, just kind of trying to make our case that this is one of the great six album runs in heavy music history, and I don't think too many people would argue that. You could maybe make a case for other bands, but we didn't talk about Van Halen, but Van Halen too. I think there's good case for that as well. I have an
True,
issue.
but there's a lot of
Diver
cover.
Down. I got an issue with Diver Down, but
I was gonna say there's a lot of covers in there. On
yeah,
on those six records.
yeah. This to me is where it's at.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I love the Zeppelin catalog too. That's right behind it to me. But yeah, down in the comments, let us know what you think of this six album run and if you think it's as legendary as we think it is, and one of the best of all time again. And if you think there are other bands that we haven't talked about that maybe have a better six album run, certainly to start their career. There may be other bands that in the middle, all of a sudden they just got their second wind and whatever. But I think right out of the gate, this is kind of hard to beat. So anyway, that's a wrap. We'll see you next month for another episode of the Sabbath Stones with more Black Sabbath conversations. Till then, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together
All the
all
damn
the damn
time.
time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. And we'll see you next time. For Chris Alo, I am Pete Pardo. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.